e-commerce expansion myths blasted. Successful cross-border expansion help. Listen to the show to hear how one UK company is helping e-commerce sellers successfully expand into Europe and double their profits. Hosted by Andy Hooper of Global E-Commerce Experts.
Welcome to the webinar, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. We hope to give you as much information as we possibly can over the next 30-ish minutes, give or take. I've got a great lineup for you today. So we've got one of the members of the team, our compliance team, with us as well. So I can't wait to get her involved and answer some of the questions and give you some great information as well. So here we go. So today's presenters. So my name's Andy. This is part of our successful EU expansion webinar series that we run. We run a webinar every Wednesday evening here in the UK time, which is 5 p.m. I get that some people will be able to be in different time zones to us. That's absolutely fine. We do it at 5 p.m. UK time because that's a lot of our clients are based in the States, and therefore that's sort of morning for you as well. So hopefully, I appreciate it's probably not perfect timing for you, but it works really, really well. Best time that we can do as well. So this is part of a series. Every Wednesday we have a different webinar. There's emails that go out about that, so you should be involved in that. So there is a chat room. So if you've got any questions, you can answer any questions. Thank you to all those that have put questions in there. That works really, really well. So just put your questions into the chat box and we'll be able to answer those as we go through, no problems at all. And the last thing is there's an expanders group, GE expanders group, which is a private Facebook group for people that have expanded through our services, and and you can find it there. We are going live there right now, so you might not want to go on there, but you might want to. If you get a question later, then you could always answer that question. Think of that. I'll put that question, should I say, on the chat in the Facebook, and then that will really help that. So that's where we are now. You can see there's two presenters there. So I'm going to open up the other presenter as well so that they can introduce themselves. I'm just going to unmute Sophie. Sophie, can you hear me?
I can indeed. Hello.
Yes, that's a result. Excellent. Sophie, would you just like to introduce yourself to everybody on the webinar?
Yep, so my name's Sophie. I'm part of the compliance team here at GE, and today I'm going to share some of my knowledge on product labelling and compliance with you today.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Sophie. So Sophie's going to join us. The webinars vary between me and other people. I'm really trying to get other members of the team involved as we go through these series because number one, you want to hear from other people. You don't want to just hear from me. And two, they've got so much knowledge that they can share and help and support you with that it's crucial they get on, and you can start putting names to faces as well as we go through. So thank you very much, Sophie. I'm looking forward to having your input on this. So thank you. So what are we going to cover? Really straightforward. The agenda. So basically, what is labeling? What's required? What are the banned products? Food supplements, cosmetic products, and we're going to go into a little bit about Amazon suspension and why you might be suspended because of some of these things. So it's absolutely crucial that you understand why you could be suspended to avoid that. We're going to give you all the information as we go through to really help you. So product label compliance is sort of the key focus of the topic, but it's really key to understand to make sure you're compliant with the regulations here in the EU. And Sophie's going to go through all of that information in a minute. So you need to know why it's required, when it's required, and everything else involved in that. Now, why has this come around? So sellers quite often say to us, well, Andy, you know, there's people selling my product or a similar product on Amazon right now. Why are they compliant? Well, the reason they are compliant is because they may have put their product in a little while ago. That doesn't mean to say they are compliant. It just means they're currently selling it. And we'll come on to what happens when they get suspended as well. But what we know is that training standards, who Sophie will talk about later, is actively going around Amazon FBA centers and pulling products off the shelves. There might be a pause on that at the moment, but that's technically what's happening. We know that clients that expand with their US-based labels are not compliant with the regulations. And what's happening now is Amazon, before you upload your new product, is asking for the front and back of the label to make sure that it's compliant and meets the regulations. Now, the other thing to say is that the fulfillment centers are technically going to be responsible if they've closed one product down now and they find something else on there in the future. And basically, people have been flouting those regulations for years. So it's about time that we clamped down on that and made sure that everybody was compliant. Now, there's three key things to consider. The first of all is, what regulations does your product fall under? The second thing is, what ingredients are in your product that may be compliant and may not be compliant? And the third thing is what in your label needs to be compliant. So what do you need to change on that label to make it compliant? So they're the three key areas we're going to cover. And then that will lead to an understanding of actually what you need to do to avoid you being suspended as well. Now, before I go any further, what I do want to say is that I hope that everyone's staying safe, staying healthy. We've seen an absolute mass increase in the number of supplements being sold at the moment, especially vitamin C and things like that. So, if you're selling those sort of products, this is a great time to be selling those products, but you need to consider all the health implications as well. And it's not a case of just get it and rush it over here. So that's it from me for a moment, I think. I'm now going to hand to Sophie. Sophie, have I unmuted you still?
You have.
Excellent. It works still. So Sophie, over to you for a moment.
Great. So there are different product categories that have different labeling requirements. So there are food supplements, medicinal products, cosmetic products, pet products, pesticides, just to name a few. And these products all have a different set of regulations to follow here in the EU and will all require labeling checks. So if you have any of these products, you need to make sure that you're getting these products checked. Can I have the next slide, please, Andy? So there are a number of different regulators that deal with different product categories that I've just mentioned. So in the UK, we have a government service called Trading Standards. So basically, trading standards are there to make sure that consumers are protected from unfair trading. And what they'll do is they'll walk around warehouses looking at product labels and taking them off the shelves if they're not compliant. So food supplement and cosmetic products have no assigned body that you need to adhere to. But having said that, there is an 800-page document which tells you what is compliant and what's not. Health and safety products might require CE markings, and medicinal products are regulated by the MHRA, which is the Medicines Healthcare Regulatory Agency. So medicinal products suppliers may need to register to sell medicinal products in the EU, and their labels may require authorization with the MHRA before the product is put on the market. The MHRA is also linked with Homeopathic Products, Herbal Medicines Committee, the Research Panel, and Devices Expert Committee. So we're going to take a quick dive into the most popular categories today, which is food supplements and cosmetic products. So food supplements. If your product contains a vitamin, mineral, or amino acid, that means it's considered a food supplement. So one of the first things you'll need for your food supplement labels is an EU address. So you must have an EU address on your label before you can sell it in the EU or the UK. Another thing to consider is the claims. So you have to follow certain rules if you want to make, let's say, for example, a nutrition claim, so low fat, or a health claim such as help maintain normal bones with calcium. So these claims must be approved and on the claims register in the EU. So if you make any other claims that aren't on the claims register, you can't have it on your product label. You also can't claim or imply that your food supplement can treat, prevent, or cure any disease or medical condition, because that would then be considered a medicinal product, even if your product is a food supplement. The next thing to consider is your NRV percentage. So NRV is basically just an abbreviation of nutrient reference value. So there are any NRVs set for 13 vitamins and 14 minerals here in the EU for the purposes of food labelling. So there are EU guidance levels on the daily amount of vitamins or minerals that the average healthy person needs to prevent deficiency. So food supplement labels must list the ingredients included in the product and give the proportion of the NRV percentage that is contained within the supplement. So for example, if your product was to contain 80 milligrams of vitamin C, the nutrient reference value for this would be 100% because 80 milligrams is what an average healthy person needs a day to prevent a vitamin C deficiency. Also note that the NRV in the EU will be different than it is to the US, so that's something to consider when expanding to the EU. Another thing to list for the ingredients is allergens. So if you have any allergens, they must be highlighted in the ingredients list. That's really important because trading standards will flag you up for that. One of the things that we get the most is whether your product states food supplement. So I would say about 90% of the labels that get submitted for label compliance with us state dietary supplement. And it seems like a very simple thing, but trading standards, again, must state food supplement, otherwise you will get flagged up for that. You're also required to give a durability indication on your label, and this will be either a use by or best before date, not an expiry date. Another thing to mention is statements and warnings. So there are several statements and warnings that you're required to state on your food supplement label. I'll give you an example of each. So a warning might be a warning not to exceed the amount recommended for daily consumption. And a statement might be a statement to the effect that food supplements should not be used as a substitute for a varied diet. So you must make sure that you're adding the right warnings and statements to your label to make sure that you comply with the EU regulations. You must also provide your units as EU units. So for example, in the States, you guys will use ounces, and here in the EU, we'll use grams. So you'll need to take that into consideration when you're doing your label compliance and make sure that you're using the EU units rather than the US units. And last but not least, pictures. So you can only put pictures on your product labels if the product contains the food pictured. So for example, if you were to have a strawberry on your label, it must contain a strawberry flavour up to 95% or contain some kind of strawberry in there somewhere. Moving on to the cosmetics when you're ready, Andy. So with cosmetics, you'll need a responsible person is the first thing. And basically the responsible person is just someone who is responsible for your products. Generally, that will be the manufacturer or the manufacturer's agent. You'll need to state the name and address of the responsible person on your label, and the responsible person must make and keep a product information file for your product as well. Again, with claims, you can't claim or imply that your product can treat, prevent or cure any diseases, because this will make it a medicinal product, even if your product is technically a cosmetic product. So any claims that are saying that you can if you can treat, prevent or cure any disease will be medicinal. The next thing to consider with your cosmetic products is your ingredients. So your ingredients must be identified by their common names, which will be listed in the INCI. And it's a very confusing thing, but basically it's just a list of approved ingredients which can be used in cosmetics in the EU. So it's just a list of what's allowed. You must state any precautions required to keep the product in a satisfactory condition. So, for example, store in a cool, dry place, you'll need to list things like that. Cosmetic products also require certain symbols. So, for example, there's a period after opening symbol, which can be used along with the number of days, months, and years that the product will be fit to use after opening. So you need to make sure that you're using these sorts of symbols on your cosmetic products. Last but not least is a batch ID. So basically you'll need a batch or reference number for sufficient identification and traceability, which is required on all cosmetic products. Moving on to the banned ingredients. So different ingredients are banned depending on how they're consumed. So whether your product is a capsule, powder, liquid or spray will make a difference to whether your product is compliant in the EU. Some of the more complicated regulations are herbal, organic, gluten-free, products from animal origins or products that prevent disease. And these will require additional rules to be followed and can be quite complex. So let's say, for example, your product states organic. You will need to meet certain requirements and have proof of this to ensure that you are actually permitted to state this, and they probably will check. So here is a list of some of the banned ingredients in food supplements and cosmetic products. If none of your ingredients are on this list, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're compliant. So ingredients can be compliant on their own, but when mixed with other ingredients or provided in doses that are too high, will require further investigation or amendment to comply with the EU regulations. So I think that's it from me. So I'm going to hand back over to Andy when he's ready.
Excellent. I was muted there, so thank you very much, Sophie. Sophie, you've done an amazing job. Thank you very much. I have got some questions, both from me and some of the people that are listening. I'm going to just go through a couple of those, if that's okay. I've got one question about pictures on labels.
Yeah.
So regarding pictures on labels, what about if your picture is a design, not an ingredient, but it's a flower or a person? Now, I'm presuming that if it's a flower or a person would be okay, but a flower, it needs to be a flower that's part of an ingredient. Is that what you would think?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, Ariel, that's basically where we are with that at the moment. It would be, you know, you've got to be really careful on the diagram and what that looks like. It's what it's meant to look like. Is it, you know, if I've got a design of a strawberry, I use Sophie's example of the strawberry. You know, if I've got an outline of a strawberry, it's still a strawberry. Like, you know, we've got you know, if it's a flower, is the meaning of it the flower? If it's just like a wild patch of flowers, just sort of slightly in a design, and it's just random, and it's not one specific flower, that would probably, and I use probably, be okay. But if it's a specific flower like rosemary, let's say, and you're saying rosemary is, you know, this, but it's not actually in the product, you couldn't use it. Happy with that, Sophie?
Yeah, totally agree.
It's always good for me to check with the boss to make sure she's happy with what I'm saying, because it's not always the case. I have to make sure. Okay, so Sophie, thank you very much. I'm gonna mute you, but you're more than welcome to chip back in if you've got anything else. Okay, so let's just talk about Amazon and suspension specifically, because there has been a spate of clients being suspended around some of these things. Now, not necessarily for their whole store, I would like to add, but more specifically around individual products. So what they'll do is they'll come in and they'll find one product that's unfillable. So, you know, it'd be like, oh, well, you know, I'm selling, I don't know, 10, 100 of these a day, and all of a sudden they're unfillable inventory. And the reason for that is they found that that one product has, you know, is basically not compliant with the regulations. Now, I know what you're going to say, because it's what everybody says to me. Yeah, but somebody else is selling it down the road. You know, somebody else is selling. I know, okay? And I do apologize, but there's nothing I can do about that. You can report it to Amazon if you want. That's completely up to you. But the reality is that with millions of products online, they can't do all of them. But you will start to find that more and more products start to become unfillable. And that's really what you've got to look to do is make sure that your products, before they get to that stage, are compliant. So if you're sat there now thinking, I've got products in Amazon, they've got US-based labels on, and they come under food supplements, medicinal products, cosmetics, you know, CE-marked products, they come under any of those things, Amazon is going to start pulling labels down. Now, it could be as simple as, we had one client come to us for our warehouse, where what they had to do was, they phoned me up and said, Andy, we've got a massive problem. It's a client we already do a huge amount of work for. They said, our product of DVDs, computer games, is all been pulled by Amazon because they're not compliant with the regulations. And the one thing that they needed to do was have an EU-based address on. So even things that aren't under regulations need an EU-based address on them now. I would say categorically, almost every product that goes in needs a US-based address, a UK-based address. A US-based, that's crazy, right? So you need an EU-based address on that product as it goes in. If it doesn't have that, it may well not even get past the front door. So it'll go into FBA. They're starting to turn things away when they get to, you get to start putting them on the shelf. Does it have an EU address? No, unfillable. Okay, you've got to make sure that your products have these in. Okay, Siri's going off on my watch. I have no idea why. I'm sorry. So you need to make sure that's right. Now, if you've not started selling yet, the advantage to that is is that you won't have to pull stock out of Amazon. The disadvantage is before you start selling on Amazon in the EU, then Amazon's going to want you to upload a front and a back of your ingredients and your products. And you'll upload those, and what Amazon's looking to do is to authorize you before you even start selling, to make sure they don't come against any regulations. So it's absolutely key. Okay, we've got a question coming, so I'm just going to answer this question if everyone's okay with that. Apologies, I'm on the second screen. Anyway, Tim, US-based seller here, so welcome, Tim. This happened with one of our products. After a few weeks, we were able to sell 10 of the units, but the other 30 are stuck in unfillable. Yeah, Tim, so I don't know why 10 were all of a sudden released. I can't answer that. But what I would presume by that is that the product isn't compliant with the regulations. It's been pulled down, and they're saying you can't do that. Now, the best way around that is to create a removal order, bring them out to a third-party warehouse. Yes, we have one. There are others available. We'd love to support you. And then basically we can look at the label, and then we can change whatever the problem is. Now, if it's a whole label, you're going to have to redesign that. If it's just an address, you can remove that. We can put an address on it, and we can send it back in. If it's the whole label that needs doing, you're better off removing that out of Amazon so you don't get long-term storage fees, putting it on one of our shelves and holding it there. And in the meantime, while you're bringing that across, so typically, when you do a removal order in Amazon, it can take anywhere from 2 days to 2 months, depending on where your products are around the EU, and depending on whether you're just based in the UK or you're pan-EU or anything else. So what you find is that actually when you hit that removal order, you can send your labels to our compliance team. We can look at changing those labels and telling you what's not compliant. And therefore, by the time the product actually gets to us, we might have a solution to be able to rewrap that product and send that back out for you. Or, if you can't send it back in, because we all know there's some technical issues getting things into FBA because of the virus that's happening at the moment, then actually what you could do is you could then fulfill from our warehouse should you need that. Hopefully that answers that, Tim. I know that was quite long, but hopefully that answers that. Okay, so that's how to avoid suspension. 1, don't have products that are not compliant. If they're not compliant, you will find in the very near future, as based on Tim's already given us an example, that they will start becoming unfillable. And it's really, really key that you try and avoid that from happening. The best thing I would suggest is that if you've got, say, 5, a good number of units in, okay, what you could do is you could send us the label, we can check it and find out what's compliant, and we're going to talk through what that looks like in a moment. But we can check that and see what's not compliant and see if we can add some value there and support you. If it's a case of the label being changed, then actually what we might need to do is to remove some stock, keep some stock in there. If they're still fulfilling it, keep it in there, but remove some stock, change the others, send it back in, and then hopefully you'll have a lag where you'll be able to get your products back in, which will reduce the impact of you getting unfillable inventory, because you want to keep you selling in order to keep your sales velocity going. All right, so hopefully that's helped with the suspensions. Okay, so labeling, how does it work? So there's like a 3-step process. So if you need support with this, we have a service that can help you. We've got a solution. Sophie is part of the compliance team, and really it's relatively straightforward. So what happens is you would send us a PDF of your labels. We would need the front and back. If you have any labeling on the box, we would need the labeling on the box also, and any safety data sheets. So you would send that to us, and then Sophie and the compliance team would then work through that label, and they're looking to tell you 3 things, all right? The first one is what regulations they come under, what ingredients are compliant and what ingredients are not compliant, or which ingredient might need to go away to a consultant for further investigation. And lastly, what you need to change on your label to make it compliant with the regulations. And then after we've done that, you send that to us. Sophie then basically takes that, and then what happens is we do the review and then send you the report based on our findings on that initial review, okay? And what we're doing is we're doing that based on all of our knowledge and work that we've done over the last 3 years with various clients. And what we're doing is we're putting that all together, and we've now got a solid system that really, really works. When we first started doing this, we had to send everything to external consultants, and the process cost thousands. We've now managed to work out a process to keep as much in-house as possible. The downside is that if we come across an ingredient in a formula or a digestion method that we're not used to, at that point we have to send that away to a consultant for further investigation. Now, first step is, here's your initial review. What we do is we send you the report back and say, here's the initial review. If you need something to go to a consultant because it's specific. So given all the different regulations, we can't know everything, unfortunately. So sometimes we have to send things away to further investigation. So what happens is we'll do the review, and then we would come back to you and say, here's what we found, here's the 3 things. This one product needs to go away for further investigation. And that's step 2. Now, in doing that, when we've done the first step, if you've got products if you've got ingredients within your product that are banned, then actually there's no point sending that off to the consultant, because you might have to rework the whole formula, which probably wouldn't work for most people. But some people it may. So what you then got to look at is, can I then send that off to the consultant? Does it work to send it off to the consultant? You then come back, we give you a quote for that. We'll say it's going to be an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, however long that's going to be, and we're going to give you a quote, and then we might say that's going to be 1 to 2 hours. If we think it's going to be 10 to 12 hours, then we'll tell you that. Very rarely does that happen. So that's step 2, and at that point, we're going to be able to give you all the information. And then at step 3, once you've gone away and redesigned your label, you can send that label back to us to review it again at the end, okay? So we can do that for you. Now, that's the 3-step process into getting it compliant. Now, what I would say, the first step, 80% of our clients don't need to go to step 2, okay? So in the initial review, 80% of our clients get everything they need right from the initial review. Of the 20% that need to go to the consultant, on average, it's 2 to 3 hours of additional work per label. So that's what you're looking at, all right? So that's a guide for you to give you a better understanding. So I've got a question coming from Johannes. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Do you guys review labels for products of all categories? Okay, so we review products for most categories. Okay, so there are some things that are trickier for us to do, but if you send us the label, then we can have a look at it. And if it's something that we can't do, then we'll be very upfront and honest with you and tell you we can't do it. There are certain things around pesticides that we can't do that are really, really difficult. And there are some things in certain animal products we can't do, animal categories we can't do as well. But if you send us the label, we'll be able to give you that information and tell you, and we can work through that. So that's like the 3-step process. Hopefully that answers that question for you. I haven't seen any more questions come through. So at that point, I'm going to say we're done. Thank you very much for your time. I really value hopefully we've given you plenty of value and information to help you. If you need any help, please get in contact. But overall, from all of us at GE, please stay safe, please stay healthy, please look after your families, and please basically take advice of the governments and stay inside wherever you are in the world. And look after yourselves, and hopefully when we come out of this the other side, you're going to all have much stronger businesses and are available to be able to sell your products to people in the EU compliantly, I might add. So thank you very much for your time, Tim. Yeah, thanks very much. Again, be well to you too. That's it from us. Have an amazing day, everyone, and we look forward to working with you and supporting you in the future. Thank you very much.